Hey guys, welcome to Proto Point. So this is the 12th part of our tutorial on building URL sorting application with Flutter at the front end, and in the back end we are using Nodejs with MongoDB database. So in our previous tutorial we have done with submitting a long URL that will convert a long URL into a short URL. So as you can see over here, so this is the UI. So in this part we are going to get all the list of a particular user that is being stored in our database. Okay, so let me show you. So here so this is my MongoDB database compose, and you can see I have this database collection, that is database, and inside this I have a collection that is URL submit. So here each user has its own URL submission. For example, if this user has been logged in into the application, then this this data belongs to that particular user. Okay, so likewise these are the data being submitted in our last tutorial. So you can see, so this is the data. So whenever the user try to hit this URL, he will be directly redirected to this main URL, that is a long URL. So I want to just show this all the data of a particular user. For example, if this user is signed in, I want to just show this particular user data in our Flutter application. So in this video tutorial, we are going to do that. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so before moving into our Flutter application, so let me show you the backend API that we are going to make use of. So this is my Node.js project, and here I have some routes being built by using Express. So this is the API that we are going to make use of. You can see get user URL. So what this API does is it will just write a query to fetch all the data from the database by passing the user ID. So you can see from the front end we need to pass user ID to this API in the request.body. So whenever we make use of this API, we need to pass user ID from the front end. So what this user ID will do is it will just fetch the data from the database by making use of find query, and you can see I'm making use of this schema model dot find, and I'm going to pass this user ID. So what this query will do is it will just write or fetch all the data of a particular user. For example, so this is the user ID I'm going to pass from the front end. So now here it will work something like this. So here user ID, if I pass, you can see this particular user has three data in that. So you can see this is one data, this is second data, this is third data. Okay, so this is the data been written by this API. So here you can see response.json, and in success I'm going to pass all the data been stored in this variable success. Inside success I have all user URLs. So now let's go to our Flutter application and write the code to show the list of data into that. So here you can see down of this I want to show a list of items that will show the list of URLs. So these are the data being shown in the list. Okay, so now let's work with the front end thing. Okay, so now whenever the user sign in into the application, he is redirected to dashboard page through which he can submit his long URL and get the shortest URL. And here I want to show a list of URLs that he has submitted. So for that I need to make a call to my API, this API. So for that I need to write a function. So let's write a function now. So here, yeah, so over here down of this I can write a function. So this function will be a future function because I'm getting the data from the server. So future void, and I can just name it as fetch user URL, and you can name it anything, and this function will accept one parameter, that is user ID. We need to make this function as asynchronization. It is just suggesting you. Okay, so there is no need to return anything from this function, so no issues. Okay, so I need to make an internet calls to our backend. So this API need to call. What I can do, I can just make use of this get connect. I can name it as final response await get connect dot post method. Here I need to pass the URL of my backend API, and I need to pass a body, that is request body. Okay, so here let me pass a URL. So URL will be this thing. So here IP address might change, or you can use your domain if you have a domain, and then the API will be this. Okay, just copy this and paste it over here, and here you can see I need to pass user ID. in request body. So this is my request body. I need to pass user ID to this. Okay, so user ID is user ID. So now whenever this function is been called, I need to pass this user ID, right? So I need to get the user ID that is been stored in my shared preference of getX storage. So you can see this is my uh, users data of a logged in user. So what I can do is here in init method I can just call it. So init method works immediately whenever this page loads. So I can just make use of init state. So inside this I can get the users data. So user data I can easily get it by making use of map string dynamic users data is equal to get storage dot read the key. So here key will be user. Okay, so you can see in during the login, as soon as our user has successfully logged in into the application, I am going to store that particular user's data in users key. I am writing it. So now this time I am reading from that data. Okay, so now I get the data of this user. So from this user data I just need user ID. So user ID will come from users data user ID. So let me show you. So if this user has been signed in into the application, then user ID will be this. So it is underscore ID. Okay, so just copy this and paste it over here. Okay, so now I get the user ID of the particular signed in user. So now I can just call my function by passing the user ID like this. Okay, so here I get the response from the server, from the API. Okay, so the response will be this response. So from this response I only need this success data. So inside this success data I have users URL, right? So I want to just get this data. Okay, so here what I can do is I can make use of final list which will be of type dynamic list dynamic, and I will just name it as data. And inside this data I am going to just store all the data that comes in the response.body. Okay, so you can see inside this success parameter I am going to store all the users data. So in this data I get all the users data now. So now here finally I want to just store all this data in a list format. So for that I can create a variable over here and I can name it as list of type map string dynamic. Okay, or else you can just make use of normal string, or there is no need to specifically use dynamic. Okay, so here data list I can name this variable, and initially I will just keep it empty. So here data list. So as soon as we get the data from the server by making use of this method, we have this data over here. So now finally I can just store all this data in this variable so that we can access it in our front end in showing the list over here. Okay, so here set state data list is equal to list of map string dynamic dot from. So I'm just converting this data and storing it into this variable. Okay, so now let's work with our front end to show a list of items over here. So for this what I can do is if, okay, so my screen got off. Yeah, okay, so here if data list dot is empty, if it is empty, then I want to just show a circular progress bar, else I want to just show a container. Okay, so just refresh. So you can see our data list is empty, so it is showing a circular progress bar now. So now here in container widget I will just make use of child widget. So here in child widget I will have a list view builder that will build our data as per our datas, number of datas. So here I must make use of item count. So the item count will be data list dot length. So if there are three datas, then three datas will be built over here. Okay, so item builder will be context and the index. So return, so what we need to return, that is list tel, or else I can give a card widget over here. So inside this card widget I can give a child widget with list tel like this, and now in the list tel I can give title, one is title, and one is subtitle. So inside subtitle, I can just show a long URL. So for this, I will just make use of text widget over here, and here I can just show a long URL. So you can see I get data from this database like this. So this is user ID, this is short URL, so long URL I get. So it's dollar data list of index of long URL like this. And the subtitle, we can just give a text over here. Okay, so I will just keep empty for now. So let's check if it is working or no. So I want to just call this function. Yeah, so I have already called. So let me refresh and let me start my Node.js backend index.js. Okay, so it's working. So backend is working. So now I need to refresh my app. So let me check if my backend is the IP address of my local device is same or it got changed. Okay, so it is same, I think so, that I'm making use over here. Yeah, 192.168.29. Yeah, correct. Yeah, it is correct. Okay, so let me stop this application and reinstall it again because I have made various changes. I have just added a new function, so it might not be reflecting over here. So I will just restart my app, reinstall my app. Let's wait. So I think so it is getting installed. Okay, so app got installed, so it is just starting it. So you can see progress bar, the user has been signed in. So you can see I'm getting the list of URLs of that particular user over here. Okay, so here I'm just showing a dot 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 sign. Okay, so here if instead of this dot dot sign, I can just show a real URL, that is the short URL of that the user has created. Okay, so what I can do is I can just over here, I can give HTTP and your domain name. So if you are hosting this application somewhere, you need to give your domain name over here. Okay, so for now I will just make use of my IP address itself. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, like this. Okay, and then the short URL. So dollar data list of index short URL. Okay, so the short URL parameter is from our database that we get the data from. Okay, so let me refresh now. Okay, so you can see this is the short URL. Okay, now suppose if you want to give a padding widget to this container, to this expanded widget, or you can just give a spacing over here. So it is not looking nice, so I can just give a spacing like margin to this card. So it can just keep a gap between them. So margin I can give as edge insect dot symmetric. Vertical, I will just give some verticals, and horizontal also I'll need to give horizontal, I will give 16. Okay, so let's refresh. So now you can see, yeah, so let me give a elevation for this also. Yeah, so it will just give a shadow effect to this card. Okay, yeah, so this is how you can create a URL sorting application in Flutter with Node.js at the back end. So thanks for watching. Please do subscribe Proto Coders Point. Thank you.